Let's get to SEC Power Rankings right now, Caleb. And which was more difficult for you? Was it last week with no games to play, or this week with basically everybody in the SEC playing patsies with the exception of Georgia and LSU?
This one was more difficult, significantly so, because remember, guys, I don't do my power rankings the way I do AP polls or projections. All three are different. There's projections, there's power rankings, and then there's rankings. Projections are what I think is going to happen. Polls are just what is your record and who have you played? Simple as that, and I don't care about anything beyond that. Power rankings are based on what I've seen you do this year, who should be favored on a neutral field if the two face off.
Okay, so what I'm going to do,
much more difficult.
Right. What I'm going to do in a unique way is I've got a sounder for you're not a college football playoff contender, and I'm going to be pretty liberal throwing it out there. And then I've got another sounder that says, yes, this is a college football playoff contender. So I don't want to argue with Caleb about who should be 8 and 6 and so on and so on. So I'm going to look at this a little bit differently. But if you haven't had an opportunity to read it, I highly suggest you do so on offthehooksports.com. Caleb, who is number 16 now, which doesn't sound right.
So number 16, and people are going to say it should be Florida. I will get to Florida, but I actually have South Carolina at number 16 because while a bad loss is one thing, beating Old Dominion 23-19 is just what? That's horrible.
Are they a playoff contender?
You suck.
No.
Absolutely not. 15.
It's Florida now, and Florida lost 41-17 to Miami over the weekend. Guys, Tennessee should absolutely destroy Florida at home this year. Dave, we thought Billy Napier could get fired mid-season. I'm not sure he makes it out of September.
You suck, you jackass.
All right, obviously not a college football playoff contender, and they may be worse than they were last year. I go back to 2 years ago when they had the, oh man, his name suddenly escapes me. The kid Richardson.
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like we were talking about how you hold on to your job when probably you shouldn't. If they don't have Anthony Richardson, I'm not sure he didn't lose his job last year because he was all they had 2 years ago. They didn't make a bowl game that year.
Before we move on, yeah, what'd you think of Dan Mullen's retweet over the weekend? Did you see that?
I didn't. I think Dan Mullen's kind of a clown.
He retweeted Matt Berry pointing out the Florida coach that got fired went to 3 consecutive New Year's Six games in his first 3 years and was let go in his 4th season. Yeah.
Butch Jones used to do that. Butch Jones used to reach out to media when Tennessee would struggle, and it wasn't rubbing their nose in. It was like, y'all weren't happy when we were winning 9 games. Well, I mean, no.
But Dan Mullen has a point, though, doesn't he?
No, Dan Mullen doesn't have a point because Dan Mullen is a sham of a coach that thought that tried to portray himself as a great offensive mind, leveraged it up to Florida, and didn't put in the work. So I don't like anything about Dan Mullen. Sorry, Dan, if you're listening. All right.
Wow, Dave with some nuclear words. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a true competitor, he should have another job right now. He shouldn't still be in TV. But I don't want to talk about him.
Okay, sorry. So number 14. This was tough for me. But it was Texas A&M. Now, I don't want to hold things against Texas A&M too much for losing to Notre Dame, but they did lose by double digits, and they did lose at home. And Connor Wegman is just not a good quarterback.
I was taken aback by how bad Connor Wegman was. I really was. I thought he would perhaps take a step, do something, be better. Who's next? Obviously,
you suck. Yeah, jackass.
They're not college.
You don't think they're a playoff? Contenders. Okay. All right. So number 13, not a college football playoff contender, but Mississippi State. Jeff Lebby had the Bulldogs looking really good in their 56-7 win over Eastern Kentucky. But they're still at number 13 in the SEC Power Rankings because it's Eastern Kentucky.
You suck, you jackass.
Okay, let's go back to. So you had a disagreement?
I think A&M might be a playoff caliber team if Wegeman takes a step forward. I mean, he was awful on Saturday, though. It's hard for me to believe in him after that. But sometimes you can get really, really, really good.
I think you've fallen in love with Elko.
I mean, look, he made some very bad mistakes that I would not expect from an Ivy League coach.
I was high on him too. I'm going to start to get off these bandwagons a little bit quicker because you and I were both on the Brian Kelly bandwagon that he would do stuff at LSU, and we've both proven to be wrong. So I'm going to jump off faster than you. I'm off the Elko bandwagon, and I was 4 days ago.
Yeah, when John comes on tomorrow, I'm going to have to include coaches in our Football IQ segment that I'm usually pretty high on.
John Adams.
It was not a good weekend for coaches, I believe in.
No. All right. So who's next?
All right, so number 12, speaking of that, LSU is number 12. I don't hold it too much. I don't hold their loss as much against them as Texas A&M's loss. They did play USC at a neutral site. It was effectively a road game in Vegas. It's West Coast time. I'll give them a bit of a break on that. And they were actually in the game at the end.
Well, there were more LSU fans there than USC fans. I'm going to give – I'm going to change directions again after I've seen something. I have facts now. Southern Cal brought in some transfers. They hate being called Southern Cal, which is why I call them Southern Cal. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
That rubs them the wrong way. So Southern Cal brought in some defensive transfers, changed their philosophy. They may surprise me this year. I thought 4 days ago Lincoln Riley was on his way to the NFL in some shape, form, or fashion, at least on the hot seat. So they may surprise me. I was impressed by the way they stood up against LSU in the trenches, particularly. What's next, Caleb?
Yeah, I will say the one knock I'll have is I felt that LSU took the game out of Garrett Nussmeier's hands too much. They should have let him throw it around a lot more.
Yep, I agree.
So number 11, Kentucky. Weird game. Kentucky beat Southern Miss 31-0. But the game was called in the third quarter, fourth quarter. It could have been 45-0. They look highly efficient. I'll say Kentucky looks like usually Kentucky wins those type of games. Dave, like 27-14. So
are they a college football playoff contender?
That's crazy.
No. All right. What else you got, Caleb?
Number 10, we got to give him some love. Vandy, the Doors, beating Virginia Tech in Cashville. All right. I mean, I should have him higher, shouldn't I?
You could. Now, they're not a college football playoff contender. Saying so would be
that's crazy.
But good for them. Good for Clark Lee. We've made fun of him a lot, which we enjoy making fun of.
No, I've defended him. I made fun of Vanderbilt.
Yeah. But I've made fun of it. Well, he was pretty goofy at his first SEC Media Days where the goal is to win a national title. Come on, it's Vanderbilt. Knoxville's best Asian cuisine is right there at Asia Cafe before we see where the balls are listed. And Asia Cafe has they are absolutely guarded secrets, family recipes, 5 locations to choose from, asiacafe.org. asiacafe.org. And don't forget, they have that fantastic, and I mean fantastic, Brazilian cocoa energy booster premix instant white coffee that I love. The golden label coffee bag with the Lim family on it. And it's been 3 generations since 1909. And the Lim Dynasty in Asia Cafe has those locations that you can check out right below. I prefer, by the way, the Callahan location because it's close to my house. And that's where we're going for a little bit of sushi today. All right, Caleb, who's next in your power rankings?
All right, so next I'm going – I dropped 70 over the weekend. Maybe Bobby Petrino is going to save Sam Pittman's job because Arkansas beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 70-0. Got to show some love for them. But
yes, but saying they're a college football playoff contender would be –
that's crazy.
Okay, but good for Sam Pittman. He's a guy I root for.
All right, number 8. As despicable of a human as he is, Hugh Freeze's offense may have taken off. Tigers beat Alabama A&M over the weekend 73-3. And if they kept the foot on the pedal, they'd have dropped 80.
College football playoff contender?
Yeah.
Hey now.
I'll agree with that. Again, we're talking about situations where you could possibly lose 3 games and make it. To me, that looked like a 2 or 3 loss team at best. But we'll see. I mean, you could make the college football playoff. So who's up next?
All right, number 7. We're in the top half now. You can feel however you want about them, but Missouri looked pretty good against Murray State. They won 51-0. They dropped 28 in the first quarter, and Eli Drinkwitz, to his credit, if you watch that game, Dave, after dropping 28, he pulled a Phil Fulmer. I mean, he pulled his starters very early and tried to get the game out of and tried to get out of there with a win.
Yeah, but I'm going to stick with
You suck, you jackass.
But Dave, they
know,
would
I know.
have been a college football playoff team last year
I know.
if it was.
I know.
And they have everybody back.
It's purely personal.
I mean,
I'm
it's
just gonna be
projected.
honest.
I don't think they'll make it, but like, and for those who don't know, guys,
Okay.
Hey now.
They're a contender.
let me tell you
I'll
why it's
give you
personal
that.
for Dave on the message board. I'll tell you guys this. If you're a journalist, Missouri is the Big Ten of journalism schools in the SEC because they thumb their nose at every other journalist. As Dave and I are journalists, and they act like they are the smartest people in the history of the world at their journalism program. Is that why you don't like them, Dave? Because of how they thumb their nose at all of the reporters?
Not at all. I didn't. It has nothing to do with it. I'm not particularly fond of Eli Drinkwitz. I think he's a goofball. And I didn't like Missouri being added to the conference because I thought it was a square peg in a round hole like the Big Ten has done with the West Coast teams. By the way, did you see the Big Ten promo that they ran where they took the camera and they kind of slid it over to the United States of America? So it's like they're looking at the Eastern Seaboard. So all the teams line up and it looks like they're maybe 15 miles apart. Did you
Oh yeah,
see that?
they were doing that last year before they got the West Coast teams because but now that they've done it with like USC and UCLA, it looks even more ridiculous.
It's so stupid. All right, go ahead. Who's next?
Number 6 is Oklahoma. They beat Temple 51-3 over the weekend. I mean, they beat an FBS team. That has to count for something. And their defense was very, very good. Still don't believe in Brent Venables, but you got to say they're a contender at this point.
That's crazy.
I'm going with my earlier prediction. Kudos to them for beating up on a bad opponent. I just don't think they have the head coach in place. So again, this is a preseason notion that I've long had that I could be proven wrong, and it's not because I dislike him like Drinkwitz, but I don't see it. I don't see it out of that Oklahoma team.
I mean, I'm mostly with you, but right now, based on what I've seen, I got to put them as a contender. But number 5 is we've got Tennessee in at number 5, beating Chattanooga 69-3. I mean, again, it wasn't just beating an FCS school. Does it count, Dave, if you beat a better FCS school, or are all FCS schools the same? For the SEC's level.
Is North Dakota State still an FCS school? Why
Well,
are
yeah,
we calling
they
FCS
count.
school when they have a championship now in FBS? But anyway,
Well, if you're like a top 10 team in FCS play like Chattanooga, or you were 2-9 in FCS play last year, do we really make a difference between those, or do we just is it all the same?
I think there are some programs that are better. When we had Rusty Wright, the Mox coach, on last week, I thought he gave us some great insight into that. That's a heck of a talent jump. That it's the group of 5 schools that have to worry about transfers. So I thought that was a real hint as to the fact that there's a big difference in the level of players. And I think it was evident on Saturday. So you have Tennessee where?
At 5. They're obviously a contender, but they are at 5. You tell me if you think. Okay, now you can debate me with the 4 we're about to name if you think Tennessee should be below or ahead of them based on what they've done to this point. So
I'll do this. I'm also going to put it up on the YouTube page where you can vote. Tennessee is the blank best team in the SEC. 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. And I
have them 5th, so I have them lower than everybody.
Right. Which, I mean, I made it that way because I'm right and you're wrong.
All right, well, let's go down.
I'm joking. Go ahead. 4.
And by the way, everybody we're about to name would be college football playoff contenders. So number 4, Ole Miss.
Gosh, I think that I know the numbers that Jackson Dart put up, and I know that they scored a ton of points, but I also know that it's Furman, and Tennessee could have put up every bit those number of points and more. Both those teams probably could have scored 100 on Saturday. So if I had to pick, do I think Tennessee is better than Ole Miss? Yes. So we're going to change gears a little bit in terms of college football playoff contenders as to, do I think Tennessee is better than them? Caleb does not, based off the power rankings to this point, but I would have them above Ole Miss just purely based off what happened last week.
Hey now.
I don't know how you could put them above Ole Miss based on what purely happened last week. Like, they both play top 10 FCS schools, and Ole Miss won 76-0. Tennessee won 69-3. I feel like
I'm always going to factor in eye test, and I think Nico's better than Jackson Dart. I think Tennessee's defense is better than, and I haven't seen the back end tested again, but Ole Miss hasn't been tested. I think Tennessee's defense will be significantly better, or already is, than Ole Miss. So it's not just, it's based off last weekend and my eye test. Does that give me an out?
Maybe I'd give you an out if you were going to go on projections, but I can't do anything based on what I saw last weekend. I got to put Ole Miss ahead of them for right now.
Okay, but you're talking to the guy that told you that Michigan was going to win a national title in September, right? I got a pretty good eye.
You do, and you are a slave to your projections, but you have to ignore your projections with
that. Is not. Whoa! I've just talked about how many things I'm changing. I'm not a slave to my projections. I hate it when people do that.
No, what I mean by that is you saw what you saw with Michigan. You were dead right on. You got a great eye, but you couldn't have put Michigan number one in any power rankings in that moment because they haven't beaten anybody.
That's fair. Let's get to the top three, right?
Yes.
And that's brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. Contractors, the perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips to trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app, how to work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership run around. You'll be on the road tomorrow. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks with an X. That's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks with an X. The trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, you can go online to worktruckswithanx.llc.com. Worktruckswithanx.llc.com. Why risk chancing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Work Trucks will also work to make sure that you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll find it, outfit it, make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. WorkTrucksLLC.com. Caleb, who's up next?
All right, number 3, Alabama. They again, I think Tennessee will still beat Alabama, but Jalen Milroe did look like he could run Kalen DeBoer's offense as of right now. It was against Western Kentucky, but I mean, we can safely say Western Kentucky is better than Chattanooga. So them winning 63-0, I got to put Alabama ahead of Tennessee right now.
Hey now.
I will give you that one purely based off Saturday. I'm not projecting at all. I will tell you that I think Tennessee will beat Alabama based off my eye test. But right now, I'm going to play the game a little bit more by your rules. And I'm going to say that right now, based off Saturday, that is a more significant opponent. So unlike Ole Miss, where to me, it was just a blowout beyond belief in both games. It doesn't really matter. This one is Western Kentucky. So I'll roll with you there. They should be above Tennessee.
Yeah. Number 2. Now, this is where my projection I had to throw out because they will not stay number 2. And I would, if you ask number 2, but if you ask me between Tennessee and this team, I would take Tennessee every day and twice on Sunday. But as of right now, I got to put Texas at number 2. And because they did beat Colorado State, they shut out Colorado State 52-0. They pulled Quinn Ewers early. We saw a taste of Arch Manning. Guys, I'm going to tell you, Arch Manning's better than Quinn Ewers. He should be starting over Quinn Ewers right now.
I kind of think the same thing. And I was going to make some phone calls about that. Could there be perhaps a situation there in which here's my theory on what's going on there. The Mannings wanted Arch to sit. And then Texas realized that they were national championship contenders with Quinn. So to make a change could chuck that. Coaches are by nature conservative. So I think to make that change would be very aggressive. And I don't think they're going to do it. I got a feeling I know who's number one.
Yeah, number one is not even a debate. Let's just, guys, come on. Do I have to say it? It's Georgia. They didn't just beat Clemson over the weekend. And I'm going to do my recap tomorrow of the weekend. I'm saving it because there's one more game tonight, Florida State and Georgia Tech. Not Florida State and Georgia Tech, Florida State and Boston College. But, guys, Georgia is number one. And you know what's funny is they looked ugly in the first half. It was a 6-0 game in the first half, and then they just took over in the second half. And you just saw where Georgia's so deep, Dave. They just overwhelm people.
Deep and really physical. That's I heard somebody say over the weekend, compared to a heavyweight fight where people are leaning on each other and then come the haymakers. Well, one was a heavyweight. One team was a heavyweight.